Okay, this question might be a little silly. How do you fill a pen from your ink vials? Especially the Karas Custom and the Pilot 74, as in every drop of it. Okay, fair enough. And I'm gonna stall because I did not grab all of my supplies for this demonstration before I started getting into it, and I need a spare sample vial right here. Okay, great. And I have a Custom 74. I grabbed the pens, I just didn't grab the vials. So I always try to make a list of the products I need to grab ahead of time, and as you know, if you watched a few of these things, I never remember everything. So, an ink syringe is gonna be your friend, but I'm gonna show you that in a second. I wanna try and show you non-having to buy extra things you don't already have kind of solutions. So you're talking about two pens, Karas Kustoms and the Pilot Custom 74. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit for this demonstration. So hang with me for just a second. And I always feel weird when I have like half my face. So I'm gonna kind of slump down right here. There we go. Okay, here we go. Hey, there we go. Okay. I feel like a little kid at the table here. My elbows are like, anyway. So I have two different Karas Kustoms pens. The Fountain K and the Ink. They're two different nibs, so it's really kind of two different ways of filling them, but what I'm gonna show you is the same for both. So you have two different nibs. One of them is much larger than the other, but it's inset. The one on the ink is actually inset in here. So if I actually remove the nib unit from the pen, you'll see the nib itself is actually much larger. But when it comes time to fill it, it's gonna be kind of similar. So you have like this inset in the top here, where ink is kind of all cut up in there and whatnot. So really what's going on is if you're trying to fill in here, you're gonna have to remove the back of the pen. You're gonna go in here to fill, and your filling filler hole is right up here on most fountain pens. It's right up back on the back of the feed, right where it meets the grip. That's where you're filling from, not at the very tip of the pen. That's where the ink flows out of, but it fills from up here, which typically when you have a bottle of ink, it's fine. You can use it for a while, and when it gets down to the very bottom, it becomes problematic. So this works for an ink sample vial as well as any bottle here. So I'll just go ahead and say that. So when you start to fill, if you're trying to get every drop out of it, whether it's a vial, whether it's a bottle, whatever, the couple of things that I would do, first off, specifically with Karas Kustoms or any cartridge converter pen, is you can remove the cartridge out of the back of the pen. You can then take the cartridge, stick it into the bottom. Now the cartridge, depending on which type of cartridge it is, specifically with Karas Kustoms, you have your standard international one. You have to be able to hold the converter as you're twisting it. So you gotta kind of stick your finger down in there just a little bit to hold it, and then you can just twist the back of it. So that's no problem there. It's relatively easy to do. You're getting way down in the bottom there. You're gonna get basically all the ink you're gonna be able to get by removing the converter off the back, and then you just reinstall it onto the pen. It pushes right on. It's really not a big deal. You just do it that way. Actually, a lot of people prefer to do that even when they don't use it from a vial or use a bottle of ink or whatever, because it's just, it's cleaner. You don't have to wipe off the feed and all that kind of stuff. The only difference is if you're filling it that way and your pen is not already inked up, you're gonna need to give it time for the ink to work its way through the feed. It's kind of like when you use a cartridge for the first time on a pen that's just been cleaned out or whatever. It takes time for that ink to kind of work its way through. So don't, take a brand new pen, fill it through a converter, throw it on the back, and then go right with it in the next, 2 seconds expecting it to flow through, because it's gotta work its way all the way down through here. It's this tiny, tiny little ink channel that goes through the feed that has to have that capillary action work on it. Now you can kind of force it through. You can kind of like, shake it like that and kind of force the ink down into it and all that. You're getting into some like master level techniques here. Same thing kind of works for the Fountain K. Sorry, the ink pen. You just pull a converter off the back. I don't have a converter on this one, I'm just realizing right now. Pull it off, fill it up, same concept. Even though it's a different pen, it fills the exact same way as the Fountain K. Now, Pilot Custom 74, a little more complicated because the converter on this pen is different. It is not a piston converter. So this one, it's a larger converter and it's a button fill converter. So it works by pressure. So it's got this little rubber stopper here and then this piston up at the top that you can see there, that white piston. So that rubber stopper, when you push it down, it's kind of free floating in here. And so when you push the rubber stopper down, it's stopping it in place. And then it's filled with pressure here basically. And then when you lift it back up, it's lifting the stopper and it's creating a negative pressure as you're letting go of the button. So you have to kind of like push it and do it a few times to be able to fill it. It usually creates a ton of bubbles. That's just kind of how this converter is designed. This can be really kind of tough to work in something like this. So in this kind of situation, you can take this off. You can use a different type of converter, a Pilot Con 50, Con 20, Con 40 that'll be coming down the road. That you can use instead of this Con 70. You can use an ink cartridge as well. But if you really want to use the Con 70, honestly, that's where you kind of need the ink syringe. So the ink syringe, you can really get every single drop out of this vial or your ink bottle or whatever. And then you just kind of take it in here and you just stick it down in, you fill it up. You don't fill it up all the way because you need room for it to displace when it fits onto the back of the pen, but fill it up to about here. And then that's going to be about a maximum fill. And then when you go to put it on, the thing's going to be completely full, your nib's going to be clean, you can go about your business, and that's that. Now you can use the ink syringe too if you don't want to do the whole converter thing in the ink sample vial. You can use an ink syringe and just fill a converter or an ink cartridge or whatever you want to do. An eyedropper converted pen. Lots of options with an ink syringe, which is why I think it's just a fantastic tool available at gouletpens.com. But that's part of why I sell those things, is because they're such amazing tools. You can see now how much of a little kid I am. I want to do a Q&A. Okay. I'm in a punchy mood, I tell you. When I shoot days off, it puts me in a strange mood. So there you go. Hopefully that helps you out.